All right, welcome back to the Casual Combat MMA show. No idea what this episode is, but we're gonna just get right into it. Right, last night, what the hell did we see, Cal? The fights themselves were pretty straightforward fights, but I feel like there was a lot going on that kind of led to a couple head-scratching occurrences. One that stands out to me would be the Chaos Williams versus Abdul Razak. I can't remember his full name. Instead of butchering it, I'm just going to call him Razak. But both guys coming in, absolute knockout artists, and I got to be honest, I expected fireworks, but I did not expect fireworks in the direction that we saw. What was your idea between Razak and Chaos?
Yeah, I didn't. I thought Chaos was probably going to lose this fight.
Knowing that Razak had finished his last 6 opponents within a minute, or at least within the first round, maybe they weren't all within the first minute, but man,
killing people.
Yeah, but on the other side, I feel like an idiot for not acknowledging Chaos Williams. He is now 2-0 in the UFC, and his longest fight in the UFC has been 30 seconds, so he's absolutely sparking guys too. So I think it was not as outlandish as people think. I feel like the narrative of that fight was that somebody was going to get lit up, which was true. But I think Chaos Williams showed that he was a little more precise than just, flinging shit and seeing what worked. As I feel like Razak kind of is just a wild man, smaller version of Francis Ngannou. And Chaos literally just roped one right straight up the middle. It didn't look that powerful. Obviously, it was.
Yeah, he must hit like a train, because I don't know that I've ever seen the knockout to the chin punch straight on. You know what I mean? We always see the knockout on the side of the jaw and stuff, and that puts people to sleep. But he was out cold from a punch that hit him right here in the chin.
I don't know how to describe that punch.
I don't understand the anatomy. They don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe that punch anything other than a dagger. That was just a dagger of a punch.
Straight in, yeah. Stabbing.
Yeah, a stabbing punch.
Now, if he had a beard like what I'm sporting right now, he probably would have been able to handle that for sure.
Yeah, and also acknowledge that the No Shave November is going well for me.
Same.
Yeah, we're about halfway through, and as you can see, I'm holding strong.
Looking good.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I like what you're doing.
Yeah. And also in our main event, there's more to talk about than just the main event and co-main event, but we're going to keep it quick and just talk about Felder versus RDA. I have nothing against RDA. I love RDA, and he is a very likable champ. He is a respectable fighter. I don't think there's anything that anybody can say bad about RDA, but I think I would be remiss to say that I wasn't rooting for Paul Felder to come out on top of this one.
Yeah, I really Paul Felder made me a fan of his this week, just taking the fight and then some of the stuff he's talking about and how his whole idea and how he thinks about fighting now and how he's kind of revitalized and regrew this passion he has for fighting is fun to listen to. And he's a guy who wants to go out there and fight now, and that's kind of fun to watch. I think we all thought we were done with the Paul Felder days.
Yeah, after his fight, which we'll get to talking about, I thought for sure that when I found out that they were interviewing him, that he was going to say, this was awesome. I am glad to have the opportunity, but, this is going to be it for me. I'm going to move on to triathlons, commentating, coaching, yada, yada, yada. He's a guy that has a solid career lined up for him after fighting, which isn't maybe it's more common than we think, but isn't common as far as, a guy that still continues to want to fight. You know what I mean? I think some guys continue to fight because that's how they make money. And if they stop fighting, how are they going to make money?
That's what I was going to say. He doesn't need to fight. He doesn't have to fight. He's fighting because he wants to. That's the only reason he would fight.
Exactly, which was refreshing. I was happy to hear him say at the end that he is definitely not going anywhere. He is here to stay, at least for the time being, which I was excited about. And I think, kind of listening to Bish being like, he did look sharp. He looked fast. He looked good, especially, afterwards, having found out that he hasn't stepped in an MMA gym for 4 months. It looks like a refreshed Paul Felder.
Yeah, and he cut 25, 30 pounds in 5 days. I mean, I think he looked really good actually in defeat, but I also thought RDA really impressed me. I thought I was ready to watch RDA I thought he was on the downhill portion of his career, and I think all of a sudden he is actually like a real player in the lightweight division.
Dude, he is
there is another horse in the race.
Yeah. I think RDA gives anybody in the top 5 a tough night out. I'm not saying that RDA is going to come in and, collect everybody's heads, but man, I think he is definitely a guy that nobody is wanting to fight, especially right now for him being not in the rankings last night, but now probably, just cracking the top 10. I think a lot of guys don't see an upside to that fight. They don't get pushed further, and they have a lot to lose. And it's not like you have a lot to lose because you're fighting this unknown guy. Like RDA is a guy that is going to be a tough out. Yeah,
it's a tough fight for anyone to win.
Yeah.
Do you see he wants to fight McGregor next, which everyone does, but
yeah, that was a bad call out. He could have prepared a better.
He could have called out like Chandler or something, or
anybody other than McGregor. And he very calmly was like, "I think this is what makes sense," and I'm like, "Well, A, no, it doesn't. B, that Conor McGregor is already scheduled to fight here in 2 months. Like, when do you think this is gonna happen? Like that could have been thought through a little bit more, but." I agree. He looked really good. He fought smart. He did not decide to stand and trade with Paul Felder. Which is where Felder was going to beat him.
Yeah, no, he fought a good, clean fight all the way to the end. I thought he won every round of it.
Yeah. And as much as I love fights where there's bad blood and those guys hate each other being locked in that cage, it is sometimes refreshing to see respect that is authentic. You know what I mean? I think sometimes there's like friendship in the cage that's like not, and maybe like too authentic, like something about like the Cowboy and Gaethje stuff. Like, kind of every time that Cowboy fights, it seems
Cowboy
like an unauthentic,
I don't like that at all.
Yeah. But these two guys were two guys that really wanted to kill each other, that respect each other.
Yeah. They both knew, especially I think RDA respected the fact that Felder took the fight on short notice. You have to respect that, and gave RDA a platform to shoot himself up into the ranks in the lightweight division that he didn't necessarily have coming. Now, looking back at it also, had RDA fought Islam Makhachev, I feel like I was completely wrong in counting him out of that fight. If you ask me today who I think would win, I think RDA would probably beat Islam Makhachev.
I agree with that take.
It's fighting really is just what have you done your last fight, and that's what we've seen. And now I still think RDA's got it after this last fight.
Yeah, and I feel like Islam Makhachev, it wasn't under his control. I believe he had a staph infection, so it's not like he pulled out because he was sick or a bad weight cut, or like he really had to pull out. But man, he having lost his first UFC fight and then kind of proving himself back, and now he finally got a name that he can really get up there and then get into, how long before we really hear back from Islam Makhachev? Like, when is he going to be relevant in this lightweight division again?
He needs to fight soon too, because when do they start with Ramadan? He won't be able to fight then for a while.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's tough. He missed an opportunity, and it's unfortunate, but
yeah. But I'm sure we will see him in the future, regardless of
Yep.
Who it is he's fighting against. If he is the real deal, he'll be there.
Yep.
And then kind of the biggest head scratching idea or theme of the night was the scoring. What were the judges doing? And I know we kind of go back to this. I know you and I have had our talks about, certain fights that we think were scored the wrong way. And I've gone off before we've had this podcast to talk about it, my problem with the 10-9 must system. But there were two distinct scorecards that I saw from last night that make absolutely no sense. And let's start off, just because we've been talking about it, the Felder RDA fight. The fight was not a split decision. It was a split decision, but who could have possibly seen Paul Felder win that fight, let alone someone who watches fights. That's your job. The judge presumably has seen thousands of fights, understands the scoring system, and gave Paul Felder 3 rounds. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm watching the fights, and I'm trying to justify giving Felder any rounds. And I scored it 4-1, and that's generous.
I can see, and yeah, I was the same thing. I was watching the fight. My eyes were somewhat glazed over from the Miller Lite, and my heart wanted Paul Felder to win. So every time Paul Felder did something, I'm like, oh, yep, that's big. And I know I get biased when I watch fights because the guy I'm cheering for, I think everything is bigger. But even with that, I thought Paul Felder handily lost that fight. And I think it's 4-1 too, which how do you, as a person who's supposed to be unbiased, diagnosing the fight, paying the most attention you possibly can, how can you get through 3 of those rounds like, yep, Paul Felder won that one?
I couldn't believe it. And it not only, I mean,
a friendship there? Is it Paul Felder's buddy?
It might be. And don't get me wrong, I wish I was Paul Felder's buddy, but I mean, any way you slice it, like I know that the numbers did favor Paul Felder as far as significant strikes throughout the fight. But when we look at how a fight is supposed to be scored, it's not scored upon the most strikes landed. It's scored upon 1 damage. And there was not a single round where Paul Felder damaged RDA more than RDA damaged Paul, right? The second goes to aggression, and only if damage is equal, right? I know you know this, Cal, but if there's casuals listening. So aggression only goes if damage is equal, which none of the rounds damage was equal, right?
That's a good point, though, too. It's not damage and aggression. It's not these things add up. It's bar none. If you had more damage than the other person, that round is decided. That you could have 1 punch, and they could punch you 30 times. And if you did more damage in that 1 punch, you win the round, right? That's the first criteria. Second criteria is aggression, right? If both guys are equally damaged, who is the most aggressive? And then if those 2 are equal, then we go to control, right? So that's when RDA's takedowns could come into, account. And I think he had 6 takedowns throughout the fight. But the way that I saw it, we never even had to take into account takedowns. And I think the 1 round that I gave Felder, I believe that was a round where he didn't get a takedown. Right. And I think that Paul Felder maybe equal damage. I thought Paul Felder may have been a little bit more aggressive. That was maybe reflected in the higher significant strikes landed. But that was only 1 round, man. I can't see how on earth anybody scored Felder 3 rounds. Yeah, no clue.
Yeah. And the real head scratcher, which seems to me physically impossible, is in the Yoder-Granger fight, not the co-main event, but the third to last fight. It was a women's bout. 1 judge scored the bout 27-26. And I just can't wrap my head around that, right? To give a perspective, there are, I guess you could conjure up math to get this anyway, but all are equally stupid, right? One would be that judges never gave, or 1 judge didn't give a 10-point round at all, right? And I thought it was a competitive fight. I thought it was a good fight. Like, I enjoyed watching it. It wasn't like a fight that would be indicative of what I'm about to say, right? So a way to get this score would be to score it 9-9 for the first round, 9-9 for the second round, and 9-8 in the third round, which couldn't have happened, right?
There was no points taken away, correct?
No, there were no point deductions at all.
Because that's the only time I've ever seen a 9-9 round.
Yeah, and that did not happen in this fight. Another option would have been a 10-9, a 10-9, and then for the other person, a 10-6.
What about, it could also be...
No, it would have been a 9-9, 9-9, 9-6.
What about you could do 10-8, 10-8, then the other way around, a 10-7.
They're all stupid.
If they did the 10-point system, that's what it has to have been.
But there was not any round that was not a 10-9. There was not a single dominant round by either person. It was so bad. It's not The card had to have been wrong. Was Bruce Buffer drunk? Did he read it wrong? It can't be 27, a 3-round fight that was that exciting. Can't be a 27-26.
10-7. Coming on strong. They almost got the 10-6 to tie it up.
And keep in mind, the other two judges saw it 30-27.
Dude, you gotta
And
not be.
I would almost put money on the same judge that scored it 27-26 was the same judge that saw Paul Felder winning the fight. There had to have been one of those judges that just didn't get it.
Yeah, you can't let that guy judge 255.
You got to fire that guy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Sal D'Amato. It couldn't have been because I usually agree with his scorecards. And I haven't gone back and looked. I didn't look at the scorecards. I just wrote it down. And maybe it's wrong. Maybe there's an error. I don't want it to be an error. I hope that's true. I hope there's a judge that saw it like that.
Really what they wanted.
Outrageous.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah. So, I mean, that just, as if I didn't already have a problem with the scoring system as is. And I'm not saying that I have an answer. I don't have a better solution, right? But essentially, MMA just adopted how we score boxing bouts, which it's a different sport. They shouldn't.
I think it should be. I've always thought the 10-point system is stupid because there's no reason to have that many numbers. Just have it be either. Well, it really should just be either you won the round or you lost it. You should be win, lose, draw.
And if you absolutely dominate, then you get like double the points. Like
win plus.
You get 1 point for winning a round, and if you really kick their ass, then you get 2 points.
Yeah. You could easily do 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, and then have a potential 2 points if you dominate.
Yeah.
Or there's no, because in the 10-point system, numbers 1 through 7 do nothing.
Well, yeah, except for if this guy is judging.
Maybe props to him.
The elusive 10-6.
Maybe props to him. Maybe you should be able to use all the numbers.
It's like, I think that guy won 10-5. That leads me.
Interesting would that be though, if like a 10-8 was actually now scored more like a 10-5, and we had all of these numbers in between to differentiate how bad someone got beat.
That would make decisions very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Like a close fight, that would be like, okay,
if you got beat
to happen?
2 rounds, you can't go into the 3rd round for sure knowing you would have it won.
Yeah, there's no way to know.
Without getting dropped.
Hey, man, I like that idea. I think it's bad, but I think that it's exciting.
Title of this video, use all the numbers.
Title of this video is definitely use all the numbers. Maybe and you won't know what that means unless you watch
after it. You can put a normal title before that.
No. You just got to keep it as use all the numbers, and they'll have to watch to figure out what that means. But
or not.
That's all we got for this episode, guys. Unless, Cal, you've got something else you want to add. But as always, drop a like on the video if you're listening to this via podcast. Actually, you're not. We're just going to put this video up on YouTube. But drop a like, subscribe, and reach out to us on social media at our Twitter and our Instagram. So thank you guys very much, and that'll be it for this episode.